Okay guys, we're going to look at the start of test 5. So we're going to start with 16.1, which is functions. I've typed in a lot of the notes already so you can fill them in, but I will talk about them as we go through. It just kind of helps the recording process go a little bit faster. So we're going to be looking at equations and to determine if they're a function or not. You can kind of think of a function like a Coke machine. So you put in your money and push the button, and out should come whatever the drink you chose. That's how a function works. You put something in, something happens, something comes out. So we're going to be looking at this function, or we're going to try to determine if this equation y equals 2x minus 3 is a function. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this table, and we're going to give x a new name. We're going to call it the input. And then we're also going to have our y value, but we're going to call that the output. So we're going to pick some numbers. We get to pick whatever we want for our input. So we put in, I chose -1, 0, and 2. And I'm going to run them through my process, which is the 2x minus 3. So for -1, my process would be 2 times -1 minus 3, and my output would be -5. I do the same thing for 0 and 2 as well, and I get the outputs of -3 and 1. Now that set of inputs, -1, 0, and 2, we call that our domain. And the set of outputs, -5, 3, and 1, we can call those our range. So we have two new names for x and y: input, output, and domain and range. So this table represents a function because each input, or the domain, corresponds with exactly one output, or the range. So that means when I put in -1, I get -5 out. When I put in 0, I get -3 out. When I put in 2, I get 1 out. So each input corresponds with exactly one output. Another way we can look at these the functions is with a mapping. So in the mapping, we have the domain of 4, 9, and 0, and it's mapped to its corresponding range. So 4 corresponds with -2 or 2, 9 with -3 or 3, and 0 with 0. So that means when I put 4 in, whatever happens in my process here, I get either a -2 or a 2 out. The same thing with 9. I put 9 in, and out comes either a -3 or a 3, but when I put 0 in, a 0 comes out. This mapping shows a relation, which is not a function, because each member of the domain corresponds with more than one member of the range. So when I put 4 into my Coke machine, I don't know if I'm going to get a -2 or a +2. It would be like putting in $1 in the Coke machine, and you don't know if you're going to get a Coke or a Diet Coke. So this is not a function because the machine is not functioning properly. We're not getting one output for each input. Another part that we're going to look at in this section is finding the value of functions. So we started off with the equation y equals 2x minus 3. If we were to write this as a function using function notation, we just change our y to this funny looking little f here with the x in parentheses. Now we just read that little f in x as f of x, or the function of x. So it's just another notation. It doesn't change anything. It's just a notation. It's just saying that you're dealing with a function. So if we have the function 3x squared minus 2x plus 8, and we want to find the values of the function at 0, at -5, and at 7a, this is how it would look. So the value of the function at 0, so f of 0, just means in our input table, 0 is our inputs. F of -5 is my input. And f of 7a becomes my input. I put each of my inputs into the process, and I should get an output. Now with the 7a, you're going to have to use, it's a polynomial, so this becomes 3 times 49a squared minus 2 times 7a plus 8, and you would want to simplify that. But this is just showing you that whenever they give you this notation, like f of 0 or f of -5, they're wanting you to find the value of the function at that particular number, and that number becomes your input. They're also going to ask you to do some graphing. So graphs of functions. So if we have the function f of x equals x plus 2, we're going to make an input-output table with 2 to 3 inputs. So I drew one over here, so I made my input-output. I didn't use a process column, but that's okay, we don't really need that one. So my inputs, I chose, you get to choose. I chose 1, 2, 0. I try to make easy choices here. Then I'm going to calculate my output. So for my input of 1, I put it into my function, so I have 1 plus 2 gives me 3. 2 plus 2 gives me, that should say 4, not 5. Let's fix that. There we go. And then if I put in 0, I get 2. So I would take my table and I would use these input-outputs as my ordered pair. So my first ordered pair would be 1, 3. My next ordered pair would be 2, 4. And then my last one would be 0, 2. I have those 3 points. I can connect the dots and draw my line. That's my graph of my function. The last part is a vertical line test. So it's just a way to test to see if you are given a graph, to see if it is a function. So if it is a function, then if you take a vertical line and you go through the graph at any point, so let me see if I can draw some here so you can kind of see. I'm going to use this purple. So if I draw a line at any point on my graph, I shouldn't touch it more than once. But if I do touch it more than once, like I do on this circle, here and here, that makes this not a function. The same thing with this little S curvy one. If I draw a line, I actually end up touching it in 3 places. So this one would not be a function as well. So, not a function. Not a function, and yes, it is, because it only touches the graph in one point. So that is 16.1, and I think it has enough information that I don't want to bombard you with too much, so I want you to try to do the homework. Go ahead and you can send me questions, even though I won't be there Friday. You can still send me questions if you're having difficulties with the homework. Feel free to rewatch this, stopping, pausing, whatever you need to do to try to go in maybe and answer some of the questions. Like I said, it's a lot of information. None of it's terribly difficult, but it's a lot of information. So I'll just leave you with 16.1 to work on over the weekend. Make sure you try to get your review done. And if you don't take the test Friday, then I will open it and you will have a chance to take it on Monday. Have a good weekend.